Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Nashville Tour Stop Podcast. Thank you for joining us this week. First episode broadcast from location. We are in the new venue here in Nashville called the 8th Room, formerly the Douglas Corner Cafe, and now we are living in James Bond's living room. And our guest this week, Mr. John Hollier. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man.
Man, welcome back.
Yeah.
Welcome back. So we had you on the show. That was, I think it was like April of 2020.
Yeah.
That sound about right?
Like first wave. Of the
First wave. I forgot that was even the terminology back then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Early rapture, man.
Well, I start every episode by asking, how did we meet?
And I'll tell you exactly. I know exactly where we met. I had signed up on the Facebook YEP page for a writers round. Wasn't affiliated with you. Mm-hmm. At least I didn't know that.
Young entertainment professionals.
Yeah. And they had this was right when I stopped playing sideman pop country. So it's like I'm on the hunt to get better as a solo artist. So I found a little sign up sheet for some random dates at a bar called 404 Bar and Grill by the zoo. Never been there, never heard nothing about it, but I emailed the girl, got on, went and played it, and just hated every second of it. It was, I mean, you know the bar,
remember all too well.
It's one of those places where like Nashville has forced music on people, and I feel like it's a bar where people are just going there. People playing cards in the corner, people drinking, watching sports games, and then you have songwriters in the corner playing, and you're like, dude, literally no one wants to hear that. And I felt a little like jaded because I was like, man, I just left a gig that was doing really well to do my own music, and this was the first taste of reality. Yep, and
this is how hard it actually is.
I felt, but I heard that voice in my head being like, you know what, try and find some kind of positive out of this. And I stayed and had a drink, and by this point the joint cleared, and you were the last person there, and we had a couple of beers and talked. You said you actually curate those shows. This was the precursor to Nashville Tour Stop. Right. And it was great to meet you at this point. You had a little notebook with all your openings and stuff. You scheduled another show out of it. And I left there thinking, man, this wasn't a complete wash. Met a cool guy who's kind of in doing what we're doing. You had the Dirt Road Degenerates. You were in a rock band.
Oh, my God. That's a throwback. There's not a lot of people in this town who know those words.
Yeah. That's where I met you. And then the next time I played, it was a Nashville Tour Stop at Belcourt. There was a coffee shop we did a couple of.
We did. That was Just Love on Demundrian.
Yeah. With Hunter Lyons. And, dude. That was good stuff.
I remember calling the three of us the Three Amigos back then because we played so many of those rounds together. Yeah. Back when I could book all of my shows in my pocket calendar.
I loved it.
The pocket calendar with a small pen and paper.
I knew you weren't messing around. When you pulled out that little notebook,
it's like this guy doesn't fuck around.
Yeah. Well, in today's world, you pull out a little handwritten notebook with your schedule on it. That's like, man, like this guy's not joking. Because I mean, the technology is great these days, but I can put so many things in my calendar. I don't live and die by a calendar like that. Even something easy like digital, but handwritten, I'm like.
So the 404.
404.
That's a throwback, man. Because I only did a handful of shows there.
I didn't go through you for that show though. So that was the big twist. Was like I met you and Chris, the other Dirt Road Degenerate.
Delisle.
Yeah.
First time his name has ever been mentioned on the podcast.
Well, he was running sound, and so like I assumed I was going to meet this girl named Jen or Jenny or something like that. Never met her. And that's totally part of the climbing the ladder, pay your dues part of the songwriter world.
Oh, yeah.
Is you go there expecting to shake hands with the person who booked you, try and meet some people, and especially a fresh face. No one knew who the hell I was. 404 Bar and Grill. I don't even know if that thing's still open.
Man, I'm glad that you have such a good memory of that, because I honestly just remember seeing you play and being like, shit, this guy's good. I remember because I think you played War Cry, because that would have been a brand new single back then. Yeah. God, and that was the one that got editorial placements on Spotify, right?
Yeah. That was one of those, like the kind of the white rhino.
They just happen.
But one of those recordings and this is the world we live in too, where like nothing really matters, which is the fascinating part. Like I put a recording out of me and Kevin Smith, basically just me and Kevin Smith in my bedroom recording. We did the drums in a bedroom.
Were they live drums?
Oh yeah, real drums. I had a Behringer 4 input.
Wow.
Still have it. I use a little bit higher quality now, but at this point, it's like we had 4 inputs. So I forget what is it like the John Lyles or something style recording? There's a name for this specific type of drum mic placement, but it's kick drum, snare, and 2 overheads. That's it. And so we did that for this recording. So you're looking at a Logic session with maybe 30 tracks in it, maybe.
Wow.
And we recorded it all at the amps in the room, mic'd them up.
That's cool.
And we put the track out, and it gets pretty much as big of an independent placement as you can get in the rock world. And
I think that kind of raw sound is what a lot of rock fans like, though.
Well, here's the
garage
catch.
band,
100%.
Old school stuff.
Yeah. Well, it does, and it is, because it's like you can hear vulnerabilities in it. You can hear, as much, but also Michael Meckling mixed it, so it's like Mike, in my opinion, has got one of the best ears for mixing. So he has a polish to it that it doesn't sound like we recorded in a bedroom.
It doesn't sound like that.
Yeah.
But deep down.
But he did email me. He emailed me, and he was like, man, some of this stuff is pretty rough. Where'd y'all record it? I'm like, oh, in the bedroom.
Like,
and he's laughing. I'm like, no, I'm not kidding, man. Like we didn't spend $1 on this track. But he does such a good job polishing it up that it wasn't like we put out a raw track. Spotify, I'm certain it wasn't a person that placed that song into
an algorithm or something.
The algorithm picked up that song, and I can't be positive, but I'm almost certain that that's what happened. It met the requirements for whatever they, It's a scary technology in these days, because we're learning that right now.
They can listen to you and know exactly, like, it belongs with all these things.
It just placed it like, and it was a great placement. It was like, but it was a little intimidating being sandwiched between the head and the heart and Nathaniel Rateliff, and you're like, this song ain't gonna last.
You're like, do they know who I am?
Those guys don't. But the algorithm placed it there, and it is funny, like putting out music after that placement. We have had one other placement,
okay,
but everything else has fallen through the cracks. And we've put so much time and energy into those recordings and mixes and writing that it is funny looking back to the 404 Bar and Grill days. We recorded a track, put it out, and it got about as high as you could independently on a Spotify.
Oh, no kidding, because there's so many of these people pumping thousands of dollars into their tracks.
Man.
And they go nowhere.
And then that's the bitter truth, is that the reality is that you just don't know anymore.
Yep.
And, it seems like the DSPs have all the data that they need. And so they're kind of, they've got what they like. That computer has what they think people would like. And then you have a few people that kind of get favored. And then the rest of it's just kind of a hog shoot. A lot of luck, man.
I feel like that's most of our industry is just luck, and just a lot. I guess everyone will say it's like, it's about being in the right place in the right time. And the best place to be is everywhere. And the right time is it's all the time.
Right place, right time means every day you're doing something. You're trying to go everywhere.
Yeah. That was my method for Tour Stop early on. Was like, all right, we're just going to do as many shows as we can.
Yeah.
And it starts to pay off eventually, because then somebody's going to be like, damn, you're like doing something, man.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
And then it doesn't look like that big when you're inside of the bubble, but when you're outside of the bubble, sometimes it looks like you're actually like, you're making some progress, bud.
Yeah. Well, that's the big vacuum in Nashville, is that everyone wants to be the cowboy, but there's really not a great support system for the latter. There's a great system in place for people who are very successful already.
Right.
Someone who, like, if you can already sell X amount of tickets, sell X amount of streams or CDs, vinyl, there's a lot of people who can help you manage that. But the climb up the ladder, there's not a lot of support.
There's a huge disparity between those two camps.
Yeah. And even the middle class, of music is shrinking just like the rest of the world, but there's not, it helps when you have a promoter who's sitting there. You have actual ears on the ground listening to, you're not just booking
present
everyone.
Company excluded.
Well,
because of the deaf.
Well, yeah. That's a good joke. I feel, but I feel like having the promoter actively listen and engage in the camps that are moving through town, and curating shows is, I think, one of the most important things. And we've talked about this a lot because of things going on behind the scenes.
Right.
But like having someone, I think that's what's so special about what Nashville Tour Stop does. And you have probably 3 or 4 people in town, your allies, that are doing similar things, sometimes different. But it is cool to say like how it started off with you in a rock band, and you wanted to play with other good acts, but also you needed people to be in the room, and it's funny to see how that turned into a very successful curated show.
Because I never wanted it to be this thing that was like, oh, it's the next, like, whatever.
Right.
It was really just an excuse for me to dick around with my friends and have drinks.
And we did so much of that at Belcourt. It was, it was never...
R.I.P. Belcourt Taps.
I know.
Say it every episode, almost.
I know. What probably gets brought up every episode, too, even if you didn't say
it's one of those things, it's just like, it's a harsh reality of what's happening in Nashville is the places that are those stepping stones to the bigger venues are going away.
Yeah.
And it's becoming harder and harder to be an independent musician in Nashville, which sucks because there's, let's be honest, tens of thousands of people here doing this.
Yeah.
And tens of thousands of them won't make it.
Yeah.
Just because there's fucking nothing to do.
Yeah. No, it's really crazy. I don't think I know the town now where, if someone asked me blank canvas, where would I move in the United States? I'm let's just say a 23-year-old musician, 22-year-old musician. So right out of college, asked, where do I go to play music? I don't actually know anymore.
No.
I would have said Nashville 10 years ago. And I'm sure, there's different little cities because Austin and Nashville have just kind of swallowed everything up. It's like you had to have been here. Like people maybe moving in 2005, like early cusp of the rise of indie rock.
Because people aren't going to California the same way to be like, oh, I'm going to be a young songwriter and I'm just going to go try to make it out there because we see it here in Nashville now. All of these people are like refugees coming from LA because there's nothing for them there.
Oh man, it is crazy. It is crazy. I guess New Orleans has got kind of a cool scene. That would be something that I'm seeing a lot of really cool acts coming out of there. Admittedly, from that area. So
yeah, you're a local Louisianian.
Yeah,
Louisianian. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. But I do think seeing a little bit, especially how much country is turned. Like I say country, not like Backstreet Boys country. Like they like real like rootsy. Almost. There's almost a speakeasy side of country coming out.
There is.
Really cool. But a lot of that's coming from really deep South or even Midwest places. That's really cool to see.
Kind of like swamp rock vibe kind of country.
Yeah. I like that stuff. Like Sierra Farrell, West Virginia girl. But
so what was it like growing up in the South, the deep South, as it were?
I don't, I like completely probably not much different than how you grew up or Midwest, like deep Midwest. I'm learning that like a lot of the guys, the more I travel, this past year, I think we've done 4 different like very specific trips to the Midwest.
Okay.
Which means like some of that just was by nature of touring. Oh, we're in the Midwest. And sometimes like we have to go there for some promo work or people calling us to come for isolated shows. So, which is a fun place to be. It's also frustrating because you want to have the blanket scape of like a lot of these cities are calling us, but the reality is like we've got half a dozen places that probably realistically want us. That's about it. Everywhere else, we're going to go and try and break ground. But the Midwest is a tough like the rural Midwest.
I mean, yeah, that's where I came from because when I first moved to Nashville, I was coming from Columbia, Missouri, like that Midwestern vibe. Like nobody wanted what I was selling.
No,
like we had a huge like heavy metal rock scene, and sure, I enjoy listening to that music sometimes, but like I can't write that. I sure as shit can't sing it.
And try patching together a band.
Like, I found people who like what I do.
Right. But that's the charm. That's the charm, you know? I mean, rural Louisiana, like there's nobody that's...
What city are you from?
So I would say Alexandria.
Okay.
But realistically, most of the culture upbringing would have been south of that, so closer to Lafayette.
Okay.
There's like a little corridor if you're like looking at the boot, you know, it's like it's definitely South Louisiana, but it's a little bit in that central, like the South Central. But there was a lot of music. So I felt the one thing I brought to the table moving to Nashville, I didn't have any technicality. Like I didn't have any like guitar or vocal lessons, none of that. But I had hundreds of hours of live stage present, like live.
That's more than a lot of people.
Oh, well, it was something that when I, started at Belmont, I realized I'm like most of my peers.
Did you go to Belmont
for 2 years?
Well, shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I did 2 years better friends.
Yeah, that's right. Getting to know each other. I felt like a lot of these people were technically like light years ahead of me, like in terms of their abilities and knowledge in music. But I'm not gonna say none of them, but the vast majority, like 80% of them, had almost zero time on stage.
And a good guitar player that doesn't know how to entertain doesn't do much on stage.
Well, it's
watching a good player is great, but I mean, have you ever watched like Steve Vai or Joe Satriani on stage? Those guys are just as fun to watch as they are to listen to.
And those guys are like that is like music school like prodigy guys, like guys like that. Joe Satriani. I could, as much as I like them as players, I can never touch what they do.
Oh, absolutely not.
So it never was like fun. I like listening to music that I can like approach it. And this is like
you can try to play.
There it is. Like I feel like that's the selfish side of me as a musician. It's like if it's too good, then it's like, I don't know, man, I can't digest this. It's like, but if it's like, hey, that's actually really cool. Let me see how I can.
I remember when I was doing a demo for my how to write a country song.
Yeah,
I did just like a garage band demo of that, and I sent you the work tape and the solo on it. You said, man, I think this is too good for this song.
Well, yeah, because the song is a joke.
Yeah. And
then you had a burner on the track. I'm like, I think we got to swap this up a little bit. Yeah.
You got to make it a bad guitar solo.
Wait, dude, it's got to be way worse than this. Yeah. Well, that was fun about that Nashville tour stop time period that I think I will personally look back on when you're putting out songs like that, like making fun of country songs. Like that was like our safe space as songwriters to like, you really want to be careful if you're at Live Oak or like a lot of these joints that are putting out
super country,
like so many pop country artists. That's where they go to.
Yeah.
You don't want to sit there and be like, a butt cheek and walk in and sit there and like make fun of all these guys.
Yeah, I'm not doing it to hurt someone's feeling. It's a joke. And
well, at Belcourt Taps in 2020, we were doing it to hurt people's feelings.
Yeah,
we were doing it as a middle finger in the air to be like, well, as far as we're concerned, Nashville's changed, the world's changing, everything's changing. So it is a little bit of an FU to the establishment.
Just kind of a defense mechanism for just like, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to make fun of something that I don't like.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. But that was the fun part that I will look back fondly on that time period where we couldn't tour. And it was you're a little bit of a pariah if you were touring or trying to tour for obvious reasons.
And we got slack even just for having those shows.
Yeah, we did.
I remember people DMing me on Instagram and being like, Aaron, like you've got 20 people in the room together. Like you're part of the problem. And I was like, well, I got to pay my rent.
I mean, well, and that's where it all lied. Like I remember getting comments about that. Like, this was before vaccination, so it was about isolation and masking. And I remember people making comments because some of those pictures, it was packed.
Yes. I look back now and I'm like,
well. I mean, you look back and you're like,
Like, what's the statute of limitations on breaking the law?
Well, we were certainly breaking the law, but I also feel as bad as I felt because I mean I'm sure I'm not alone, but when we got every kind of COVID there was, because of that, that was the that was part of what happened. But you look at some people were like, oh, I lived in isolation for 8 months. And I'm like, equally as messed up. Like, that's like, that's what we were told to do. But it's like, man, that sucks. As a musician, you're like, how, I don't know. It
hurts.
Yeah, it hurts.
Because we're kind of conditioned to want to be around others. And we I mean, let's be honest, we're kind of compulsively on stage.
100%.
And being in front of an audience tickles that thing.
Yeah.
And nothing else does that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, at least for me, I kind of turned to a bottle to tickle that itch. But gosh, I don't know if I would have kept it together as long as I did if I hadn't gone back to doing this.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that was at a point where I was like, well, I can't host shows. I don't have any qualifications to have any other kind of a job. Yeah. Now what?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, I went to working at a grocery store during 2020.
That. You worked at a Publix, right?
To a turnip truck. And at the same time that all this was like part of that big musical question of like, should we be out on the weekends playing these writers' rounds? Because we were past like the initial quarantine. This would have been fall of 2020.
Yeah, this was fall of 2020.
So it was like we were past it, but it's like society had no problem, with a lot of people starting to go back to work and this and that. Like we were at that point, and it's like, okay, well, I think, I'm going crazy. It's like, I've got to go and play some shows.
I've got to do something.
So, but it's seeing the amount of people that were drawn to that and artists and creators all coming together.
We needed it,
but it also is a fond memory, like for what I think the reason me and you are talking right now is because we didn't stop.
I think that's a good point because there's a lot of those people who did stop.
Yeah.
And now I don't want to project feelings, but I definitely know people who feel like they got a year or two behind because they didn't go out and do stuff and they did stay in isolation and they didn't get sick and great.
Yeah.
But they don't have anything going on that they might have had going on if they hadn't stopped for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's a harsh reality to grapple with because boy, howdy, I wanted to go out and do more. And let's be honest, I was already doing a lot.
Well, there was it like I bet I lost about 60, 65 shows in 2020. So going in like January, February, we had blanket booked, like carpet bombed this summer.
You did a heavy summer fall tour schedule, right?
It was coming, and all of a sudden 2020 hits, we lose all of it. We didn't lose all of it. We lost 95% of it. Right. But it's like I was not about to start traveling to places to play. That was like
for probably nobody.
But let's say there was a lot of people. It's like it was a little bit of like, okay, we still don't know enough about what's going on yet. But it was in terms of my hometown, go and play for friends and like do tour stop stuff. It's like that feels a little bit more controlled. And I feel like we made the right move in hindsight by canceling tours, but also like, let's see what we can do. You hear all comedians do the same thing in New York where, they would do broadcasts, it was live stream stuff. We went through that live stream phase.
I saw a lot of comedians in New York doing rooftop comedy shows.
Yeah. There was a lot of that.
House concerts, like outdoor backyard concerts became super prevalent here.
Right.
I never did any of those.
I tried one. It was like my neighbor texted and was like, can you put a PA system in the yard and like play some tunes? We're going to do like a little Saturday like happy hour thing. And this was like peak COVID. So this is when like
during the shutdown,
some of these people hadn't seen humans, And so I tried. I played a couple of songs and it was weird because I'm not playing to anybody. I'm playing to someone a house down, then someone 2 houses down.
Right.
Like they're on their porch. And just after a couple of songs, I'm like, dude, I got to get out of here. Like,
I can't do this. I can't do this. I remember playing one house concert during the shutdown. It was at Coley Kohler's house over by Percy Priest Lake.
Nice.
Ages ago before, I guess they've moved now, but it was in their driveway and they had like roped off like, this is your little 6x6 area. This is yours, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was the most people I had seen in whatever it was, 3 months. It was before, I guess, how long did the shutdown last? 2.5, 3 months?
I actually don't remember. I don't remember.
It was something like that. But I remember playing, and it was the first time I played a lot of my funny songs.
Yeah.
Because I wrote Don't Invite Me to Your Wedding on April 20th of 2020. So it was during the height of the shutdown.
Oh, wow.
I wrote it on 420. But I remember that, and I remember playing it to these people and seeing people like smile and laugh. I was like, I forgot that this happens.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Right. You get a reaction from a song.
Yeah. It's like, oh, we do need this.
Yeah.
And I remember so many people are saying like, oh, live music's dead. Live music's going to be over. And like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Like we desperately crave live entertainment.
Yeah, man. I feel like that.
It's been around for millennia. It's not going anywhere.
No. Well, what has changed is people getting more comfortable at home. And it's not just music. You see it with like movie theaters and entertainment across the board.
Totally.
You know, people are more comfortable at home because we were conditioned for a hot second.
Like, when was the last time you went to see a movie in the theater?
Not since COVID.
Yeah.
You know,
I've gone to one and I didn't like it. I was literally the only person in the theater.
Actually, I take that back. No, I went and saw Top Gun Maverick.
Okay.
But admittedly, I don't like theaters anymore. It has to be maybe something. It has to be something like Top Gun Maverick, where it's like they spent a gajillion dollars on these flight scenes where you really want to be in front of an impressive screen. And a big sound system. Because I don't even like that movie. I just was like, as an artist, I respected how much work went into that, and it was cool. Admittedly, it's cool.
Have you ever listened to John Mulaney stand up?
Wait, okay. Tell me which one. Who's
John Mulaney?
Is he the one that's super dark?
No, that's Anthony Jessel.
Okay.
But John Mulaney, he's a wonderful comedian, but he's talking about movies like that spend like $200 million. He's like, you don't need to make a movie with that money. I would pay $10 just to see $200 million.
Just like an exhibit.
Yeah, it's like you don't need to do that, but it's still cool getting to go do that. But man, I just don't enjoy going to the theater. Like I saw Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness that would have been May of 22.
Yeah.
I was literally the only person in the theater. They had to turn the room on for me.
Wait, really?
It was awkward.
Well, I think that's where they're at. It's like
theaters are dying.
Except
for Avatar: The Way of the Water, which is already like $2 billion.
Is it really?
I haven't seen it either.
Well, that would be another movie I'd want to see in a theater, like
a big one.
Yeah, and I think maybe
I'm not going to go watch some art house.
I don't think so. We're not watching dramas like.
I'm not going to go see a Wes Anderson film in a theater.
At least not post 2020. Like it's like we've got it at the house. We've got a TV and a sound bar now. Like that.
Sounds good. Looks good.
And it just like plop on the couch.
And you can wear sweatpants and no shoes.
Yeah. Sneak in booze. No, I don't know. I feel like that's been tough, and I'm sure. I mean, I'm talking to the preaching to the choir here. You run shows. It's like we were talking about touring this year, and we've got some stuff unannounced, but we have some festivals we're doing this summer. And I remember talking to the promoters of the festival. I knew we would be playing them this year because we were doing promo stuff for the radio stuff. And I remember talking to the promoters, and they're just as nervous as maybe movie theaters like right now. You're talking about
show up.
Well, like this, just people are just a little bit. How did he say it? He was just talking about like what some of not their high end donors and not the like tip jar donors that middle class of donors who usually you can expect a couple of hundred, if not 1,000 of them each giving $100, something like that. In that realm of giving, they are not seeing that anymore.
Wow.
But it's like, it's to the point where it's like, it feels like he was saying every year when they roll in these festivals out, it's a gamble every year. As they used to feel like it was growing every year. Now they're feeling like it's gambling. And I feel like hearing them talk about that from the angle of like, some of these, it's not all of them. Some of them are brand new festival stuff, but some of them have been doing this for decades at this point, over a decade. So it is a little terrifying on the entertainment front.
I thought a long time about getting into the festival world, but trying to put on big, complicated events like that sucks.
dude.
Because what I never thought about, put it down. Yeah, what I never thought about was like, sure, booking good bands for a festival is one thing, but you know what a festival also has to have? Food, drinks, bathrooms,
security, water, like
everything.
Yeah.
And if you miss one thing, everything can come off the rails.
Dude, yeah, man.
And I don't know if I want that kind of pressure.
No.
Because
like, what was that Taco Fest we almost played?
Oh my God.
That was almost our first festival win.
Oh God. So what John's talking about here is a festival that Tour Stop got asked to do in the summer of 2022. And it was the Nashville Taco and Margarita Festival inside the Nissan Stadium. And before I go on, it did happen.
Yep.
It did
It was
happen.
real.
It was real. But it turned out to just be the biggest clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Like, they had one food truck for 8,000 people.
Yeah, man.
And there was no music. There was no entertainment. There was nothing happening except for 10,000 people waiting in line for one food truck with bad tacos.
Dude, we almost played that. I remember you called me to be like, hey, put this on your calendar. I don't have the details yet, but it looks like it's happening.
Just in case.
And I was like, so I called the band and I was like, what, and everyone has a host of questions about like, what is this going to look like? And I didn't know, and ends up, we were thinking stages on the football field, kind of, rotating acts. It's gonna be cool. While it's a taco festival, which who doesn't like tacos, well, it ends up not happening. And it was just killing me to find out what happened with this festival. The
articles
reviews,
that came out.
Oh my God. Well, that was they were just trashing this festival because it's in our Nissan Stadium. It's the biggest stadium.
It's like
in Middle
55,000
Tennessee.
seats.
It's huge. And it's like, so they had a taco festival there. Nobody shows up. You're looking at something that seats, 70, 80,000 people. You're looking at single digit thousands of people show up. And yeah, it's like you said about the tacos. Apparently the complaint was that the concession stands made the tacos. So they weren't craft tacos.
No, they were not.
It was just concession tacos and concession margaritas.
Sounds terrible.
It was called the Taco Margarita Festival. And like, it's just scam 101. And it just checked all the boxes so this dude organization couldn't get sued, but they had the festival. And I was so glad we did not do that.
Me too. There's been a lot of opportunities that have come and gone in this town, some of which that I really wish would have happened, and some of which I'm grateful that I pulled out of. Whew. On that note, here, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with the Nashville Tour Stop Podcast. And we're back with the Nashville Tour Stop Podcast, recording live from the 8th Room here in Nashville, Tennessee.
All right.
John, thank you for joining us today. But your name is John, but you don't go by John.
No, I go by my last name, Hollier.
Hollier.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Even though my Southernism still calls you Hollier sometimes.
At this point, I feel like a little bit of a duty to continue that, because it's not just a funky last name. It's a pretty rich history of Cajun
it's French,
music.
right?
Yep, it's French. And my family on both sides, mom and dad, both have a pretty robust, French and Acadian history. So I do feel a little bit of my first gig was in my uncle's Cajun band. So I do feel a little bit of a duty to because we talked about that with the management about we were about to put out a first record. It's like, are we 100% sure you want to go by a name that literally no one can pronounce? My dad's first language is French. My grandpa that's still alive is considered a native speaker. They had the University of Lafayette, Louisiana. They studied, they interviewed him, he's along with, a couple thousand people left in that area that can still speak like that. So Hollier is a very common name to them. Right. I told management, everybody, I'm like, let's stick to our guns.
If we can learn to pronounce Schwarzenegger,
he can run for governor.
That's not going to be a hard a hard learn.
And they did a good job. We put one song out, it's spring of 2022.
Which one was that? Was that Reckless Love?
Yeah, and it charted like we did. Like that was yeah, and it's like we came out the gun. Like I was kind of prepped that like this is your first time on radio. Expect a lot of people to just kind of like look and pass. They get a lot of we had a lady who was doing our radio campaign, who's a wonderful person, and she's a lot of experience, a lot of success, and she did a really good job of prepping everyone who got the song, knew how to say
the name.
Because
the last thing you want to do is have a number one and have some DJ on iHeartRadio be like, and here's Reckless Love by Hollier.
I'm sure that is being that much exposure. We only had a couple of dozen, probably less than 50 stations actually played Reckless Love. I got the reports of it. Some of them showed us a lot of love. Like,
that's cool.
Played, we had one station, almost 200 plays, which is huge.
That's huge. Yeah.
So that would have been, that was like an asterisk by like that place, like over the course of a season, we got a couple hundred plays there. They were all pronouncing everything, they were all pronouncing the last name, got everything right. But there is a little bit of that, like I was warned about being primed for radio, that it's like there's a little bit of even musical merit can't get some people to pay attention. A weird last name and a first song, you're pretty much at the mercy of music lovers.
Just to see kind of like, let's see if any one of these things will catch someone's interest.
yeah, bizarre name. Yeah. We're doing an outdated style of music. We got real drums. Like
what would you call your genre if you could put it to a couple of words?
There's like this record we're putting out. I was thinking about that. It falls in the DSP like Apple and Spotify, Amazon. It falls under rock. If you were to look under a rock,
a blanket term.
That's the blanket. But what does that actually mean? It's definitely Southern. I wouldn't call it that, but I get boxed in so much as like a Southern rock. It's almost this alternative Southern rock.
Because a lot of people would equate Southern rock with Lynyrd Skynyrd.
100%. Like dueling
you definitely
guitars.
Don't sound like Skynyrd.
Not even a little bit. And you hear that a little bit like Southern rock, and it takes you back a sec, because I didn't grow up in Georgia or Alabama. I grew up in South Louisiana, so it's like totally different approach to like we didn't have the same stigmas and stereotypes you would fall under the Gulf Coast Southeast. So it's like I hear Southern rock, I'm like, man, I didn't. That's not my stuff. That's not my music. But I get what people are saying. It's not country music, but it has that rural element to it.
It's kind of like highway rock and roll. Like,
yeah, I love that term. I've heard that term. Highway rock and roll, because it is a windows down. Like you've got to drive and be. A lot of it's four on the floor.
That's what it sounds like.
And I like, but in terms of like, if I had to box, like I just filled out a form. They made me fill out a form of basic information for one of the festivals, and it's like I need to submit pictures, and they also made me do a quick bio with the genre. And I was like, oh boy.
Your elevator pitch.
Yeah, I'm like, oh God. And of course they have like acoustic rock, like acoustic song. There's an element of songwriter in this, like specific songwriter genre. And, I've gotten in this but debate with people about what does like songwriter genre mean? Because John Mayer is a songwriter.
Right.
But is he in songwriter genre? Right. I would say no. He
leans harder towards pop.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, this record leans harder towards rock, but there is, I would say, a little bit of the songwriter like tendencies that you would hear from if you go to Americana Fest in Nashville.
I think one of the good ways that I kind of try to compartmentalize it is songwriter music can be played. I think it just comes down to being a good song.
Yeah.
They can be played acoustic or they can be played with a band. And regardless of which way it's performed, it's still a good song.
Right.
And I think about that. It's like you couldn't play like Megadeth on an acoustic guitar and have it be the same.
Right.
I think that's a testament to why songwriter is such a... Excuse me. I think that's one of the reasons why songwriter music is such a loose term, is because it's so vague and different and unique to what many genres aren't doing. Like, you really can't play a lot of genres acoustic.
Yeah.
And rock almost every time can in some form be stripped down.
Yeah.
MTV Unplugged, man.
Yeah. Well, that's been something. I was actually talking to the King Margot girls about this. Like they, like playing shows with them has forced me to adapt my set.
This is King Margot, right?
Yeah. So it's like, they are in that highly specialized like songwriter. I'm going to say the word songwriter style of music, meaning that their record is built around the song,
right?
Specifically the song, not a riff, not like a theme or a motif from the instruments. It's really just like, here's the chords, here's the lyrics. That doing shows with them under that style of music, because I have a lot of songs that are the opposite. It's based around a guitar intro or a drum beat intro, and a lot of times the lyrics are just kind of I didn't sit down and have like this Robert Frost moment. It's like, this is just a rock and roll song, but that gets exposed when you tour in the songwriter realms. I mean, doing your shows,
right?
Like I really do feel like there's an element of like, you have to lean in heavy on some of these songs because you're like, they just do well acoustically. But there's a lot of some of my favorite songs that I've written that have no place in a songwriter's round.
Because they're not made for that.
They're not made for it. And in fact, I find if I spend too much time in the songwriter circles, I lose a little bit of the live show edge because you're like, you're not John Prine. You're not, we're not doing any of this, like this classical rootsy songwriter stuff. Right. These records, the record I'm about to put out is very much a rock art. I mean, we had Eric Massey produce it, and Nick Bockraff and G Max, and guys in KG Elephant, and
you've got some hard names coming up onto this.
It's a cool, really unique.
You're the only guy I'm going to let name drop on the podcast.
Oh wait! Oh my God! Off the record, is that we don't do that?
No, we can do that. That's totally fine.
Okay, guys. But I mean, having those guys on the record. Those it's a weird sound.
Okay.
It's a really, really specific, unique kind of thing that we're doing that I can't play like Nick at a writer's round. And the mic placements will never be what Eric does. So when I'm trying to play it live, I really have struggled to find that bridge of identity of like, hey, half the shows I did this past year were acoustic.
Right.
So it's like, what the hell does that even mean?
And you like doing both styles.
Yeah.
And I think so the Foo Fighters did that for a while. They would do either the rock shows or the acoustic shows. And then Clive Davis, you know Clive Davis? Yeah. Big time record producer, owner of Capitol Records, I believe Capitol, right? Is that correct?
I'm going to say yes, but I have actually no idea.
I'm not 100%. I think it's Capitol Records. No,
that all
it
sounds
might be
right.
RCA.
It's one of those like classic.
He's one of those old school biggest record producers ever. But he was talking to the Foo Fighters about that, and he's like, "Yes, both of these things are great, but you can do them together."
Yeah.
And then Dave Grohl, he's like, "Oh shit, yeah, we can."
Yeah.
So they did that, and they're like, part of the show is the big rock anthems, and then you can always take it down and bring it back up. But if you only do one kind of music, your shows can only be one thing. So I think that's why this kind of music that you're doing is so unique, is because it affords you the opportunity to do both.
I appreciate you saying that. Dave Grohl would be an obvious for a lot of people. He's their favorite artist, but he is a thriving example of someone who can take what the problem I'm talking about that I'm trying to have solutions with in 2023 is taking a rock record and being able to chameleon your way into situations like sharing the stage with very proficient elite songwriters. How do you survive?
Right.
You're just treading water at a certain point. But Dave Grohl does I'm not going to curse, but he does a freaking awesome job of shushing a crowd with a song that has only exclusively been heard as a bang bang.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're like, dude, this is beautiful.
It's a piece of art, and it's a song.
Yeah.
At its core, it's just a song.
I know. I love that. So that's where we're at is taking the record.
Have you decided what the record's going to be called?
It's self-titled.
Okay.
It's two different, someone once told me that your first record you've been writing for 10 years. Cause it's like, I've put out an EP, I've put out a lot of singles, but an actual collection of songs, it's like, it's just too much time has gone by. I'm writing all these songs to have a theme.
Will some of the singles be included on this record, or will it be all new?
Devils and Details and Reckless Love, which have been released, they will both be on the record.
Cool.
Yeah. So this one, we're trying. I don't have the exact. We're waiting for the album artwork, honestly. once that gets done, I think we're gonna just really put the record out immediately. I think my management is gonna try and get a PR campaign going. We had all that in place for Reckless Love.
Cool.
But I'm not sure there's another like true radio single on this goes back to like the super weird team of people we recorded this record with. Is it interesting? 1000%. But it also is weird. So like the one radio, like quote unquote radio song we already put out. So I'm interested to see what honestly they do with it. I'm interested to see. I loved the weird. Record 2. This might be a 2 record year for me.
Really?
I mean, we've been sitting on this self-titled record for over a year now.
So it's been done.
It's been done. Yeah. And man. So we're at this point. We had to wait. We had to clean up a few things, but that was on the back end of seeing how things were performing. The first 2 singles. How did they perform? And it's like, okay, well, I have enough data at this point to know like. Maybe you clean up a few things on the back end of this record, put this thing out.
How many tracks are you going to put on this first record?
We recorded 11.
Okay.
We brought 13 into the studio. I recorded 11, and we're going to put out 10.
Okay. So
I'll have a bonus track. It didn't fit the record. It was one of those songs. I'm sure as an artist, you've kind of experienced this too. Like the song and the demo were so strong that when I got this specific group of people together to record the record, I felt like the song didn't serve this team. Having like the super out there, unique, aggressive guitar playing, my voice, Eric engineering, and G-Max and Robbie playing this song. I heard the track back. I'm like, this does not belong on this record.
This is not right for these guys.
No, and it didn't serve any purpose on the record.
And it doesn't mean that they're not like the good players that they are, but like
no. In fact, it's the opposite for me. I feel like the song, I didn't know who was going to play on the record. Mm-hmm. So in hindsight, if I would have known who was going to be playing, I would have just brought a different song to the table. But we brought 13, and it got a little like in that a couple more too songwritery, and we wanted those like weird bangers. So
that way, whenever you put out the vinyl deluxe edition after it's gone platinum, then you can put on the extra. You can put the bonus track on it.
I'm going to try and print vinyl for it, and I don't know if you've been experiencing this. I want biggest problem with vinyl is expense, because at this point, like I'm not printing enough of it to make money.
Right,
those small margins. I don't buy vinyl that's more than like $20-$25, and that's for a record that I really like.
Right.
So it's like if I print vinyl at this point, it's going to cost in the $20 of vinyl.
Expensive.
And so it's like at that price, it's going to be an asterisk. Be like, hey, pay for shipping. It's a wash on the price. I'm basically I don't want to lose money on it, but I'm not going to make $1.
If you help me break even, you can have it.
Yeah. I'll bloat, t-shirt prices, but it's like, but for this, it's like vinyl. The record was done analog, all old school.
That's awesome.
So vinyl is what it's made for, and in fact, digital streaming exposes a lot of those like elements where it's not, if you look at the sound wave, it's not a brick. That's some of the stuff I've done in the past of all digital recording.
What was the process of recording analog like?
Stressful. It was like, well, coming from, I am not a product of that environment. Like I've only known digital recording. I mean, what we're doing right now for the podcast, like that's what I've known of. Like,
oh, you're exposing us. We're not recording this on tape.
Yeah. This is not a vintage. But this. It's such a convenient style of recording that we're in. I'm not going to say it's anything other than, because it's still real and organic. Digital recording is. If anything, it's just better to enhance.
Right.
You still got to have a really good product. So I've only known that of like do 100 takes of the guitars or make sure you get the best.
Make it perfect.
You got to get it like take your time and get it right. Practice a lot before you go and record. Mm-hmm. With analog, you don't even like, here was the biggest problem was not only like the performance had to be great, but it also like sometimes the equipment wouldn't run the same time. Like
the equipment has to also work perfectly.
So when we printed mixes, it was so old school. I read Bruce Springsteen's book, and he talked about the same thing of like all hands are on the control. Like you got to automate it yourself, kind of thing.
You're recording it live,
and it's like it will not be if you don't like that printed mix. you will not, there's not a carbon copy that exists. It's not like a digital session where you can just open back up and it's gone. And we did use Pro Tools, but all the outboard gear was analog too. So it's like you run that risk of like, hey, this compressor is like 45 years old. It's never gonna record.
You can't fix it.
And so you asked what it's like. It was like insane, like a head case sometimes, because you're like, I can hear like little like crackling of the knobs when you're making adjustments while we're live. But the take is there, and we didn't use click. So it's like literally at this point, you're like, we need to take the best. I remember looking at G-Max, the drummer, and just telling him, you've got to give me time, the whole track, and we could take that part out. But it's like, there's going to be times where the band breaks down and I've got to have you there because
I need you to have the click.
I need to have something if I'm going to go back and redo a vocal, and we ran devils into details. We didn't do that. So if you listen to the bridge, you'll hear my guitar go way out of time because I just was singing by myself and trying to get back on.
You had to come back into it.
Come back in. And we liked that take, but it was like that thing where like, it was kind of either or. Like we can either take, this take and like really attack it. But it was just a crazy process. I'm thankful that I've had that experience. I don't know if I'd do it again like that. It would have to be, the songs would have to be a little less like wishy-washy. I would have to like have straight up, like Reckless Love, you can do on tape. That's right. It's a pretty straightforward song. Some of the other stuff was getting a little ethereal, and I hope you get a chance to do a record analog.
I have always wanted to.
Yeah.
I tried to kind of recreate that with an album I put out in 2017 even though I was doing everything digitally, I kind of took that same mentality of, if this take sucks, I lose the whole thing.
Yeah.
Or I lose this half of it. Like, I don't want to go in and micro edit everything. So I was trying to like record, if I want the guitar solo to sound like this, I have to play it like that.
Yeah.
And you can, I've done it before, and I'll probably do it again, where you go in and you micro edit the solos down to the exact note that 100%. You want it to be. But it's cool getting to play it and practice it until you can do it right.
Yeah.
And then when you get that 1001st take right, you're like, I fucking did it.
Yeah.
I can actually play the guitar.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the beauty of having both, having a little bit of both. Because there are some songs that you've probably written that you're like, hey, I want to spend more time on this, and then there's sometimes you're like, I found this to be like, this is where I felt like Eric was so strong at, is his ability to set the mics up and we call it catch lightning in the bottle. And that is a dangerous approach to recording if you've kind of like, I already know what it wants to sound like,
Right.
But when you're like, some of these are just old school rock and roll songs. You're like, at a certain point, it sounds dumb if you don't do an analog.
Damn the Torpedoes, the Tom Petty record, that was all analog.
Oh, man,
They recorded Refugee. I forget what the documentary said, but they recorded that song like hundreds of times, just waiting for that lightning in a bottle moment where you're like, that is the take.
Yeah,
that's the one that goes on the record.
Yeah, I don't know how to approach a record just quite yet, like the perfect approach. I don't know. Because I mean, for me, it'd be somewhere in between. I'm sure that a lot of people who are going to do this podcast listening have done somewhere in that. But I felt like the magic was cool when you listen back to a track where you had no idea where it was going to happen.
You know that you're like, oh,
But more importantly, if it's all analog, you're kind of like, this is it.
Yeah.
It's a lot on the line.
I remember doing that with a song that I put out called Rock and Roll Degenerate. I had that same kind of a mentality. It's like, I'm going to play this guitar solo until it's right. And now every time I go back and listen to it, I was like, I can't believe my fingers did that in one take.
It sounds good, man.
And it's a testament to what truly good players can do. And I don't want to sound like I'm tooting my horn too much. I did hundreds of takes of it.
Well, sure.
But eventually you can catch lightning in a bottle like that.
Yeah.
But it is fun getting to go back and realize that, like, okay, I did it.
Yeah.
It happened.
Well, yeah, but also like, there's something to be said for that. Like, it doesn't matter how many takes you took. Like, you just went in there, you actually did it. But I also feel like that song benefited a lot from it. Like having a very strong guitar solo, I felt like that song needed that. And that's where I'm getting at. It's like putting a record out. You're like, we're about to put this thing out, and it has so many vulnerabilities. But on the flip side, it's got a lot of stuff I would never have been able to do in a truly digital, like 100 take kind of world, because there's all this vulnerability. A lot of true magic happened. But then as the funnel kind of comes down, you do have an element of like some of these tracks, like, yeah, that admittedly, like if we had 100 takes for it, we probably would have cleaned some of that up. But
tape gets expensive.
Yeah. Well, and it was just, the way the process too was just like, you know, I remember talking to some of the guys who were recording with me, asking them how they did their records. And some of these guys have had some, like, they've got trophies on the wall. Like, they got some real records that have moved the meter. And they've had pretty much, even though it's all analog, because a lot of them are cool, you know, like these are cool musicians, they only cut analog, you know. You know, they don't do that Logic stuff. But a lot of these guys had massive budgets for those records. So if you're with a big band, you can sit there for a month and record. Well, I mean, you know, on this independent Hollier project, it's like we're counting days. Like, let's go.
You're like, man, we can only do so many takes of each song.
Well, it felt like that. We recorded Devils and Details and Reckless Love in one day. And
Did you
like,
really?
Yeah, and it's like, we still had plenty of time, but the actual process was quick. Like any studio or live show, like you lose a lot of time setting up and checking, right?
Yep.
Eric owns his own studio, so it's like we had a little bit of home field advantage where a lot of the mics have already been. We already knew the room.
You just set up amp behind it.
Set up, and we kind of vibe. But catching that with a studio band, I've actually never done a studio band before. So that was weird.
You're bringing in your band.
I usually bring my band, and so I'm like a dictator in there when it's my band. Like, I'm like, that's not the fucking drum beat. But there's that element with a studio band. I can tell them I don't like something, but a lot of it is like they're going to play what they're going to play. It's what you're paying them for.
Right.
And so it is a little bit of catching the vibe. Like, you start the song off, you're like, there's something off. Like, let's, you know, that took a lot of time, but we got, you know, by the time we got done with that day, it was like we covered a lot of ground. The first 2 singles were cut the first day. But there wasn't a lot of time for overdub. There was almost no time for overdubs.
Wow.
I think on the back end, we had a day where we just went like, told Robbie to go on every song and just play piano. Just go. Go.
One song at a time, you got 2 takes.
Yeah. But that was cool. I mean, that was like that's the first like record I'll have ever put out. Hopefully I put out another one. But at this point, it's like that was like a quintessential like Nashville studio band, you know?
Right.
And the rumors are true, man. Like, I know a lot of quote unquote studio players, but I've met very few like true pedigree players. Like, these guys are actually cutting records that are really moving the
that
meter.
are made for the radio.
Not you make a living recording. Like, these guys are playing, or not all of them, but some of these guys were playing on some really big records. So I got to live and learn with them a little bit. And so it was a scary process for sure, because you just got to trust I mean, you've known me for a long time. Like, I totally play my songs till they're beaten dead. So the idea of cutting a song live in a studio with players that have never heard my ideas or anything like that is for me unsettling.
That's cool.
But we got done with it. You're going to hear it, and we'll put it out soon. And I think some of it you'll love. I think you'll definitely listen to it and be like, I think I know what he was talking about.
Hell yeah. Well, John, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell the listeners this week where they can find your stuff? This should be coming out sometime in February this year. So if the record's coming out sometime soon.
If it's coming out in February, then very soon you can find it's Hollier. That's for those who don't speak the Francais.
Cajun.
Yeah, it's that's Hollier. So you can find there's only one. There's only one Hollier out there putting music out. So Instagram at Hollier Music or Spotify, Apple Hollier Music, Hollier. You'll see that record, self-titled record coming out soon.
Where can we find tour dates on the web?
HollierMusic.com. HollierMusic.com. You'll find us. We're not touring. You know, January, February will be pretty slow, but spring, summer will be pretty robust. So you guys should find anything you want should be on that website.
And there's a hot chance you'll be able to find him at just a regular tour stop show too.
Oh yeah. Coming up on a few of them. Coming up.
I see the future for the two of us. Y'all, thank you so much for listening this week. Please follow Nashville Tour Stop on our socials at Nashville Tour Stop, Spotify. We've got our Friends playlist featuring the performers' music. Just about everybody who's played the show has got a song on there. It's a long playlist. But check out our Patreon. If you'd like to subscribe to that, please feel free to contribute and help us keep making cool stuff for you. More importantly, though, check us out on the web at NashvilleTourStop.com. We've got live shows all the time. We've got a couple of new venues we're going to be putting shows on. The local here in Nashville over by Centennial Park. We're going to be starting there once a month. One more shout out to the 8th Room here in Nashville for letting us broadcast live here now. We just moved out of our podcast studio. So if you think it sounds different, it does, because we're in the private Versace lined room here in the 8th Room. If you want to go to Hardy or Kelsey Ballerini's Instagram, you'll see photos of them sitting where we are right now, which is pretty cool. So if you want to go to the 8th Room, you can check out their website. They've got an application for membership. It is pretty exclusive here, but if you want to come hang out with, as they say, rock stars live here. If you want to do that, you can come hang with us. But until the next time, please do remember that all roads lead right back here to the Nashville Tour Stop.